The phone felt wrong in my hands. Not my phone, his phone. The one Brandon thought he'd hidden so carefully beneath his car seat, wrapped in an old t-shirt like some precious artifact. Precious indeed. My thumb hovered over the screen, muscles twitching with the effort not to swipe. To maintain that last thread of trust, that final strand of ignorance that might save our marriage. I'm Emilia, and this moment would divide my life into before and after. The craft store where I worked part-time had closed early, a burst pipe flooding the back room. I'd driven to Brandon's office, thinking I'd surprise him, maybe suggest dinner at that Italian place he loved. His car sat empty in the parking lot, but his laptop bag was on the passenger seat. He always forgot something. That's when I saw it. The edge of fabric, too deliberately placed to be accidental. Now I stood in the empty lot, heart hammering against my ribs, while my sister's name blazed across the screen. Samantha, 10 missed calls, 23 unread messages. The most recent, meet me at our spot. We need to finalize everything. Our spot, their spot. My fingers moved without permission, opening the message thread. The words blurred, then sharpened with cruel clarity. I can't wait to start our life together. Just a few more weeks until we tell her. You're right. Emilia won't understand. She never could match your ambitions. The phone slipped from my numb fingers, clattering against the asphalt. I caught it before it could shatter, though part of me wanted to watch it break, to destroy this evidence of destruction. A car door slammed nearby. I looked up to see Brandon striding across the lot, his tie loosened, sleeves rolled up, in that casual way he thought made him look more approachable. He stopped dead when he saw me. What are you doing here? I held up the phone. Looking for you. Found something else instead. The color drained from his face, leaving him ashen under the fluorescent lights. I can explain. Explain what? How long you've been fucking my sister, or how you two planned to break it to me. He took a step forward, hands raised like he was approaching a wounded animal. It's not what you think. Samantha and I don't. The word cut through the air between us. Don't you dare say her name to me. We never meant to hurt you. A laugh bubbled up, bitter as bile. No? Then why hide the phone? Why all the secret meetings at your spot? His face hardened, that mask of contrition slipping to reveal something uglier beneath. You wouldn't understand. Samantha gets me, gets what I want from life. While you're content playing with glitter and glue at that pathetic little store. Content. The word tasted like ashes. I took that job so you could chase your precious career dreams. I supported you, believed in you, and I'm grateful, but grateful. I hurled the phone at his chest. He caught it reflexively, clutching it like the betrayal it represented. Show your gratitude by telling me how long. How long have you been planning to leave me for my own sister? Brandon's silence was answer enough. I turned away, my mind already racing ahead, calculating, planning. He called after me, but his words were lost in the roar of blood in my ears. I drove home on autopilot, my hands steady on the wheel even as my world imploded. In our driveway, I sat staring at our house, my house, with its perfectly trimmed lawn and cheerful window boxes, all facade, just like our marriage. My phone buzzed. Jordan, my best friend, checking in as she did most evenings. I let it ring, not ready to voice this betrayal aloud. Not yet. First, I needed to think, to plan. They wanted to destroy my life? Fine. But they'd learned that karma has a sister too, and her name is revenge. Sunday dinner at the Carters had always been sacred. Now, watching Brandon pass the mashed potatoes to his mother with that practiced smile, I wondered how many of these dinners he'd sat through while planning to destroy everything. The garden looks lovely, Olivia, I said, cutting my roast into precise squares. Those new roses really brighten up the back fence. Oh, thank you, dear. Samantha actually suggested them. Olivia beamed. Speaking of, she sends her regrets. Something about a client emergency. My fork scraped against the plate. Henry, sitting at the head of the table, shot me a sharp look. He'd been a cop long enough to read tension in a room. Client emergency. The words tasted like poison. Funny how those keep happening on family nights. Brandon's knuckles whitened around his wine glass. What kind of emergency, Brandon? Maybe you know, since you two spend so much time together. The clatter of silverware stopped. Olivia's fork hung suspended between plate and mouth, her eyes darting between us. Henry set down his knife with deliberate care. I don't know what you're implying, Brandon said, his voice steady but his jaw twitching. Samantha and I occasionally consult on business matters. Is that what you call it? I pulled out his second phone, the one I'd kept after our parking lot confrontation, and placed it on the table. Consulting? Olivia gasped. Brandon, what's going on? Nothing, Mom. Amelia's just upset about finding out my husband and sister are planning their future together. You're right, I'm a bit upset about that. The silence that followed was absolute. Henry pushed back from the table, his chair scraping against hardwood. Brandon, explain, now. It's not what you think. Brandon stood, pacing like a caged animal. Samantha understands me. She gets what I'm trying to build, my ambitions. While Amelia's content to waste her life in that craft store. That store paid our bills while you chased promotions. I cut in. While you spent money we didn't have on suits and watches to impress people who didn't care. I was building something. He slammed his hand on the table, making the dishes jump. Something bigger than glitter and glue. And this small-town mentality. Samantha sees that. She believes in me. Brandon Carter. Olivia's voice cracked like a whip. Are you telling me you've been with your sister-in-law? It's complicated, Mom. No. Henry said, his quiet tone more damning than any shout. It's really not. Brandon turned to his father, desperation creeping into his voice. Dad, you understand ambition. You always taught me to reach higher. I taught you about honor. Henry's face had hardened into the expression I imagined he'd used on criminals in his police days. About loyalty, about being a man worth respecting. I am respecting myself, my dreams, my potential. By betraying your wife with her sister. Olivia's hands trembled as she folded her napkin. The girl who sat at this table every Sunday for 8 years, who helped me through my surgery last spring. Brandon's facade cracked. For a moment, I saw uncertainty flicker across his face. Then his phone buzzed, his regular phone this time. He glanced at it, and something in his expression shifted. I need to go. Of course you do, I said. She's calling, isn't she? He didn't answer, just grabbed his jacket and headed for the door. Olivia called after him, but Henry caught her arm. Let him go, Liv. He's made his choice. I stood, my legs surprisingly steady. I should go too. Thank you for dinner. Emilia. Henry's voice stopped me at the threshold. Whatever you're planning, and I know you're planning something, remember who you are. I turned back, meeting his knowing gaze. I'm remembering exactly who I am, and who they are. Outside, I watched Brandon's taillights disappear around the corner, probably heading to their special spot. My phone buzzed with a text from Jordan. Did you do it? Yes, I typed back. Family dinner went exactly as expected. Time for phase 2. Because while Brandon was rushing to meet my sister, he had no idea I'd already met with his company's financial auditor, or that tomorrow, some very interesting documents would land on his boss's desk. Let them have their spot. I had bigger plans. Jordan's office always smelled like coffee and printer ink. Today, those familiar scents mixed with something else. Opportunity. She spread the financial documents across her desk, each page a nail in Brandon's coffin. These aren't just expense reports, she said, tapping a highlighted column. He's been moving company funds through shell accounts for months. Look at these transfers. I leaned closer, scanning the numbers. All to the same design firm, Samantha's firm, which doesn't actually exist. Jordan pulled up a website on her computer. Beautiful website, though, very professional. But dig deeper, and there's nothing. No business license, no tax records, no actual clients besides your husband's company. My stomach clenched. She's been running a scam. Not her first either. Jordan opened another tab. Remember when you mentioned she lived in Seattle for a year? I did some digging. Found 3 different interior design businesses registered under variations of her name, all dissolved after complaints of fraud. The pieces clicked together like a twisted puzzle. The expensive clothes, the constant business trips, the way she always seemed to have money despite never having steady work. She's been playing this game for years. Jordan's journalist instincts were practically vibrating, and Brandon's just her latest mark. My phone buzzed, Henry calling. I ignored it. How much has Brandon given her? Nearly 200,000 over the past 8 months. The number hit me like a physical blow. All those times Brandon had insisted we couldn't afford to fix the roof, or replace my dying car, or start the family we'd once planned. There's more, Jordan said quietly. Look at these dates. I followed her finger across the spreadsheet. The first transfer was dated exactly 1 year ago, 3 months before I'd found the phone, before I knew about their affair. She targeted him, I whispered. This whole thing, she planned it from the start. Emilia. The office door burst open. Samantha stood there, designer handbag, clutched like a shield. Her perfect makeup not quite hiding her panic. What are you doing? She strode toward the desk, reaching for the papers. I snatched them away. Research, Jordan said coolly. Fascinating stuff about interior design fraud. Care to comment? This is family business. Samantha's voice shook slightly. You have no right. Family? I stood, forcing her to step back. Like when you had the right to seduce my husband, or steal his money. I love him, she insisted. You never understood him. What he needs. What he needs. I laughed. The sound sharp enough to make her flinch. Let me guess. Expensive gifts. Secret accounts. Just like David in Seattle. Or Michael in Portland. The color drained from her face. How did you... You're not as clever as you think, Sam. Did Brandon know about the others? About how this little game of yours usually ends? She recovered quickly, her lips curving into that familiar manipulative smile. You're just jealous. Brandon chose me because you're a better con artist than wife. I spread the documents between us. These numbers tell a different story. Wonder what Brandon will think when he sees them, or his company's board. You wouldn't dare, but uncertainty flickered in her eyes. It would destroy him. Like you planned to. I stepped closer, dropping my voice. I know about the account in your name. The one where you've been moving his money. Were you going to disappear with it, like you did to the others? Her mask cracked. For a moment, I saw the scared little girl who'd always competed with me, always needed to take what was mine. I can explain everything to Brandon. Too late. I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Henry now. The company's auditors already have copies. They're probably talking to him right now. As if on cue, her phone rang. Brandon's name flashed on the screen. She stared at it, paralyzed. Better answer that, Jordan said. Sounds important. Samantha backed toward the door, her carefully constructed world crumbling. This isn't over. Actually, I said, watching her retreat, I think it is. After she fled, Jordan touched my arm. You okay? I looked at the documents that would destroy my husband and sister. No, but I will be. My phone buzzed again. Henry. This time, I answered. It's done, he said without preamble. Brandon just confessed everything to the board. They're pressing charges. I closed my eyes, victory tasting both sweet and bitter. Good. Sometimes karma needs a little help. The craft store's bell chimed as Olivia walked in, looking out of place among the yarn displays and glitter aisles. She clutched her purse like armor, her wedding ring catching the fluorescent light as she approached my register. They've frozen his accounts, she said without preamble. All of them, even our joint family savings. I continued restocking the ribbon display, each spool clicking into place with mechanical precision. That tends to happen in fraud investigations. He's my son, Emilia. Her voice cracked. Whatever he's done, he's still my son. The purple ribbon slipped from my fingers, unspooling across the counter. And Samantha was my sister. Funny how family works. The police came to our house this morning. Olivia's hands trembled as she tried to help gather the ribbon. Henry couldn't even look at them, his old colleagues, asking questions about his own son. The weight of it hit me then. How many lives were unraveling because of my revenge? Not just Brandon and Samantha, but Henry's reputation in the department he'd served for 30 years. Olivia's standing in her church groups. The whispers that would follow them all. My phone buzzed. Jordan. Channel 5 breaking news about tech firm fraud. Running story at 6. I know what you did, Olivia said quietly. Henry told me about the evidence, how you gathered it, how you waited. Did he tell you everything? About the other women Samantha conned? The money Brandon stole? Yes, she met my eyes. And about how you made sure the story would break just before the company's merger announcement. Maximum damage. The ribbon tangled between us like a metaphor. They deserved it. Maybe. Olivia reached across the counter, her fingers cool against my wrist. But what about you, dear? What's all this doing to you? The question caught me off guard. I'd been so focused on destroying them, I hadn't noticed the cost to myself. The sleepless nights, the bitter taste that never quite left my mouth, the way I flinched every time my phone rang. I'm fine. No, you're not, she gestured around the store. You're hiding here, surrounding yourself with pretty things while you orchestrate destruction. That's not the Amelia I know. The Amelia you knew died when she found that phone. Did she, or is she just lost? Olivia pulled something from her purse, an old photo, Brandon and me on our wedding day, Samantha standing beside us, all of us laughing at some forgotten joke. Because the girl in this photo, she knew how to love without destroying, how to hurt without burning everything down. My chest tightened. That girl was naive. That girl was strong. Olivia's voice hardened. Stronger than this version, who thinks revenge will fill the holes they left. My phone buzzed again. Jordan. Brandon trying to reach you. Says it's urgent. They made their choices, I said. But the words felt hollow. Yes, they did. Olivia headed for the door, then paused. But you're making choices too, Amelia. And someday, when all this is over, you'll have to live with them. After she left, I stared at the tangled ribbon, purple as a bruise against the counter's white surface. My phone kept buzzing. Jordan, Henry, numbers I didn't recognize. Probably reporters, now that the story was breaking. I thought of Brandon's face at that family dinner, the moment his mask slipped. Of Samantha in Jordan's office, her carefully constructed world crumbling. Of Henry and Olivia, collateral damage in my quest for justice. The store's bell chimed again. I looked up, expecting another customer, but instead saw my own reflection in the darkening window. A stranger with hard eyes and tight lips, surrounded by crafting supplies, meant to create beautiful things. When had I become someone who only knew how to destroy? My phone buzzed one final time. Brandon, please, I need to tell you something about Samantha, something you don't know. I let it ring, watching the ribbon unspool further across the counter, wondering if there was any way to gather up all these loose ends without getting more tangled in the process. The cafe where Samantha wanted to meet was exactly her style. Overpriced lattes and exposed brick walls. I arrived early, choosing a corner table where I could watch the door. Jordan sat at the counter, pretending to work on her laptop while actually recording everything. Samantha swept in 15 minutes late, designer sunglasses hiding what looked like sleepless nights. You're looking, well, amazing what a clear conscience does for the complexion. She slid into the seat across from me, removing her glasses. We need to talk about Brandon. Funny, he said the same thing about you. I pushed my untouched coffee aside, right before the police questioned him about the missing funds. You don't understand what you've done. Her perfectly manicured nails drummed against the table. The company's board, the investigation, you're destroying everything. Like you destroyed my marriage. That marriage was dead long before I came along. She leaned forward, voice dropping. Brandon was suffocating in this town, in that life you built around your little craft store dreams. I just showed him what he could become. A thief. An ambitious man with potential. Her lip curled. But you wouldn't understand that, would you? Always playing it safe. Always so small. The barista dropped a mug somewhere behind us. The crash echoed like my racing heart. Small. I pulled out my phone, showing her the screen. Like these bank transfers, 200,000 is a pretty big number, Sam. Wonder what the police will think about where it all went. Color drained from her face. You wouldn't. Already did. The evidence is with the investigators. I smiled, the expression feeling foreign on my face. But that's not even the interesting part. Want to know what I found when I dug deeper? She stood abruptly, chair scraping against the floor. This conversation is over. Sit down. The steel in my voice surprised us both. Or I call the detective right now and tell him about Michael Porter and David Chen and all the others. Samantha sank back down, hands trembling slightly as she reached for her water. You see, I continued, Brandon wasn't special. He was just the latest in a long line of men you've conned. But you got sloppy this time, got personal, chose your own sister's husband. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? I pushed my phone closer, showing her the evidence Jordan had gathered. Because from here, it looks like you've been running this same scam for years. Seduce, manipulate, embezzle, vanish. How many lives have you ruined, Sam? You don't know anything about my life. But her voice wavered. The things I've had to do. To survive? I laughed harshly. Save it for your lawyer. She reached across the table, grabbing my wrist. Amelia, please, if this gets out, I'll lose everything. Like I lost everything? I can make it right. Desperation crept into her tone. Brandon and we can give back the money. We'll leave town, never contact you again. My phone buzzed. Henry calling again. I ignored it. Too late. I stood, gathering my things. The police already have everything. And Brandon? I checked my watch. Should be in custody by now. You bitch. All pretense dropped from her face. You really think you've won? That destroying us will make you feel better? No. I looked down at her. This sister I'd once loved, now a stranger wearing familiar features. But watching you lose everything, that's a start. As I turned to leave, she called after me. He never loved you, you know, not really. You were just convenient. I paused at the door, not turning back. Maybe. But at least I never had to pretend to be someone else to get that love. Outside, Jordan fell into step beside me. Got it all recorded. You okay? I watched Samantha through the window, her head bowed over her phone, probably trying to warn Brandon too late. My phone buzzed again, this time with a news alert about arrests at Brandon's company. No, I said honestly, but I will be. The satisfaction felt hollow, like winning a game where everyone loses. But as police cars screamed past us toward the financial district, I realized there was no turning back now. The dominoes were falling. All I could do was watch. The police station's interview room smelled like stale coffee and desperation. Brandon sat across from me, orange jumpsuit, replacing his usual designer suits, dark circles under his eyes, making him look older than his 34 years. You won, he said flatly. Happy now? I studied the man I'd once loved, searching for any trace of the person I'd married. This isn't about winning. No? He leaned forward, chains rattling. Then why are you here? Come to watch me break? Through the observation window, I could sense Henry watching, his presence a silent weight. He'd pulled strings to arrange this meeting, though I wasn't sure why I'd agreed to come. Samantha's gone, I said. Disappeared right after your arrest. Funny how that works. Something cracked in Brandon's expression. She wouldn't. She did. Along with what was left in your accounts. I slid a bank statement across the table. She cleaned you out 3 hours before the police arrived, almost like she knew they were coming. His hand shook as he read the numbers. This isn't possible. We had plans. A future. Like we had plans. A future. That was different. but uncertainty crept into his voice. Samantha understood me, understood how to use you. I pulled out another document, evidence of Samantha's previous cons, just like she understood Michael Porter and David Chen and all the others. The color drained from his face. What are you talking about? You're perfect, Samantha. She's done this before, multiple times. Seduce, steal, vanish. You weren't special, Brandon, just convenient. He lunged across the table, hands reaching for me. The guard moved fast, but not before I saw something break behind Brandon's eyes. You're lying, he snarled as they restrained him. This is just more of your revenge. Ask your lawyer to look up Michael Porter's case. Or better yet, ask your father. He knew. Tried to warn you months ago. Brandon went still. Dad knew. He was a cop for 30 years. Did you think he wouldn't investigate the woman destroying his son's marriage? The fight drained from him suddenly, leaving him slumped in his chair. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know what you threw everything away for. I stood, gathering my things. And because now you know exactly how it feels to be betrayed by someone you trusted. Emilia, wait. His voice cracked. Please, I need your help. The company's pressing charges. I'm looking at serious time. Should have thought of that before you stole from them. For her, he laughed bitterly. All of it was for her. The money, the lies, betraying you. I did it all because I thought she loved me. Something tight in my chest finally unraveled. That's the difference between us, Brandon. I never needed someone else's love to know my worth. As I turned to leave, he called out one last time. I'm sorry for everything. I know it doesn't matter now, but you're right. I paused at the door. It doesn't. Henry was waiting in the hallway, his face grim. You okay? No. I leaned against the wall, suddenly exhausted. None of this feels like victory. Revenge rarely does. My phone buzzed, Jordan calling. Probably with news about Samantha's trail going cold. Another dead end in this mess I'd created. I destroyed him, I whispered. Destroyed our whole family. And for what? It doesn't fix anything. Henry touched my shoulder. Sometimes things need to break completely before they can heal right. Through the window, I watched Brandon being led away. Shoulders bowed under the weight of his choices. In his defeated posture, I saw my own reflection, both of us trapped in cycles of destruction we'd created. Come on, Henry said gently. Olivia's waiting. Family dinner tonight. Family? I laughed hollowly. What's left of it? More than you think. He guided me toward the exit. And maybe that's the real victory here. Finding out what remains after everything burns down. Outside, rain fell softly, washing away another layer of who I used to be. I wondered if, somewhere in all this wreckage, I could find pieces worth salvaging, of myself, of family, of hope. But first, I had to face what I'd become in pursuit of justice. Jordan burst into my craft store, face flushed with urgency. She's back. Samantha's at your house. My scissors clattered against the counter. What? Police tracked her card usage. She came back to clear out the safe in your basement. Jordan grabbed my arm. Henry's already on his way. The drive home was a blur of red lights and racing thoughts. My house came into view. Our house, where Brandon and I had once planned a future. Samantha's sleek car sat in the driveway, looking exactly like the expensive lie it was. I found her in the master bedroom, methodically emptying drawers. She didn't even turn around. Took you long enough, she said, tossing another handful of jewelry into her bag. Though I suppose you've always been slow to catch on. Step away from the safe, Sam. She finally faced me, and I barely recognized her. Gone was the polished exterior, replaced by something harder, desperate. Or what? You'll call the police? They're already coming, aren't they? Why did you come back? Because this was mine first. She gestured around the room. All of it. The life, the status, the future. I was always meant for more than you. So you took everything I had? You had everything I wanted. The words exploded from her. The perfect marriage, the loving family, the simple little life that somehow made you happy. Do you know how infuriating that was, watching my little sister be content with mediocrity? Sirens wailed in the distance. Her eyes darted to the window. They're not just coming for the money, I said quietly. They know about the others, all of them. Something dangerous flickered across her face. You think you've won. That exposing me somehow makes you better. She reached into her bag. I'm not going to prison. The gun looked wrong in her manicured hands. My heart hammered, but my voice remained steady. This isn't you, Sam. You don't know who I am. The weapon shook slightly. You never did. None of you did. I know you're scared. That you've been running so long, you've forgotten how to stop. Shut up! She stepped closer, gun leveled at my chest. You don't get to analyze me, not after what you did. What I did, I laughed, the sound harsh in the tense air. I learned from the best, sister. You taught me how to destroy someone's life. I just turned out to be a better student than you expected. The sirens grew closer, sweat beaded on her forehead. You know what's funny? I took a step forward. I won. Even with the gun, even with everything you've stolen, I still won. Because tomorrow you'll still be running, still pretending, still empty. I said, shut up. Her finger tightened on the trigger. The bedroom door burst open. Henry stood there, his service weapon drawn. Drop it, Samantha. She spun toward him, and I moved. The gun clattered across the floor as we both went down. She fought like a cornered animal, all nails and fury. But years of craft store inventory had made me stronger than she expected. I hate you, she sobbed as Henry pulled her away. I hate that you're better than me. I'm not better. I watched as officers cuffed her. I just finally stopped trying to be you. Later, sitting on my front steps with Jordan, I watched them load Samantha into a police car. Henry approached, holding a familiar object. Found this in her bag. He handed me my mother's wedding ring, the one thing of value I'd thought permanently lost. Thought you might want it back. I turned the ring over in my hands, remembering how proud Mom had been to pass it down. How devastated she'd have been to see what her daughters became. What happens now? Jordan asked softly. Through the police car window, I caught Samantha's eye one last time. In her defeated expression, I saw a mirror of my own vengeful path, and suddenly knew what I had to do next. Now, I slipped the ring into my pocket. Now I stopped letting the past define my future. The police car pulled away, taking with it the last pieces of who we used to be. Tomorrow would bring Brandon's sentencing, more family fallout, more wounds to heal. But for now, I sat between my best friend and my father-in-law, watching the sun set on the battlefield of what once was home. The realtor's sold sign lay flat in our front yard, knocked down by last night's storm. I picked it up, brushing off wet leaves before replanting it firmly in the soil. Behind me, the moving truck waited, already loaded with what remained of my old life. Henry appeared at my side, carrying the last box from the garage. Found these in the corner, mostly photo albums. Burned them. Emilia. His voice carried that familiar weight of wisdom. Some memories are worth keeping, even the painful ones. Inside, Olivia wrapped cups in newspaper, her methodical movements masking deeper tremors. The kitchen where we'd shared so many family dinners now echoed with emptiness. Brandon's sentencing is tomorrow, she said, not looking up. 5 years, with possibility of parole. And Samantha? 7, no parole. Henry set the box down. Plus, restitution to her other victims. Jordan breezed in through the back door, carrying coffee for everyone. The story's running tomorrow, front page. Guess I'll be famous, I said dryly. You're already famous at the craft store, Jordan grinned. 3 new classes added since you became owner. That had been unexpected. My boss retiring, offering to sell me the store. Even more unexpected was discovering I had the strength to say yes, to build something from the ashes of destruction. Found it, Olivia called, pulling something from a drawer. My mother's recipe box, its corners worn smooth from years of use. You should have this. I can't. Yes, you can. She pressed it into my hands. Family isn't just about blood, dear. It's about who stays when the storm hits. The box felt heavy with more than just recipes. I opened it, finding a familiar card tucked inside. My wedding invitation, preserved like a pressed flower. I saved it, Olivia said softly, to remind myself that beautiful beginnings don't guarantee beautiful endings. But ugly endings don't erase the beauty that came before. Through the window, I watched the morning sun illuminate my garden. The roses I'd planted after finding Brandon's phone had bloomed, their thorny stems stronger for surviving winter's frost. "You never told me," I said to Henry, "about warning Brandon about Samantha." He sighed, age lines deepening around his eyes. "Would it have changed anything?" "No, but I wish I'd known I wasn't alone in seeing through her." "You were never alone." Jordan squeezed my shoulder. "You just needed to remember who you were without them." The moving truck's horn honked. Time to go. We did one final walk through, our footsteps echoing through empty rooms that once held so many dreams. In the master bedroom, I paused at the wall, where Brandon and I had marked our height changes over the years. The pencil marks told a story of growth neither of us had noticed happening. "Ready?" Henry asked from the doorway. I traced the highest mark, dated just weeks before finding the phone. I thought revenge would feel better than this. "Revenge is easy," he said. "Healing is harder." "But worth it," Olivia added, appearing beside him. Outside, I locked the door one last time. The key felt different now, no longer a symbol of what I'd lost, but of what I'd chosen to leave behind. Jordan waited in her car, ready to follow the moving truck to my new place. Henry and Olivia stood by their vehicle, no longer my in-laws, but something more genuine. Family by choice, rather than law. "You know," Olivia said, hugging me goodbye, "sometimes the best revenge is simply living well." I thought of Brandon in his cell, of Samantha facing her consequences, of all the carefully constructed lies they'd built and lost. Their choices had shaped my path, but they no longer defined my destination. The morning sun caught my mother's ring, now worn on my right hand, a reminder that legacy is what we choose to carry forward, not what weighs us down. "Living well," I echoed, climbing into my car. "I can do that." Behind me, the house stood silent, holding its secrets and scars. Ahead, the road stretched toward something new, not a happy ending perhaps, but an honest beginning. And sometimes that's enough.